Hello, and welcome to Old Scary World. So today I want to do a quick video, not a very short one and not a very long one, about Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, Milwaukee, Wisconsin is a city that I've never really looked at too hard in the old world sense or the sense of mystery regarding this whole reset civilization, reset cities. But the thought occurred to me just to kind of check it out, so I did a little bit of quick research, and so this video is just kind of a quick little dive into the Great Lakes area. And during my research I found some other interesting cities, but I'll save that for another video. So perhaps this might be a sort of ongoing series about the Great Lakes area. And so in this first picture that was taken in 1922, the first thing that struck me as odd was this welcome sign. Now, obviously this could be for some mundane reason, but given the context that we're trying to look at this from, I would find it ominous, as in welcome inheritors, or welcome to the new world, or somewhere along those lines. That's just the vibe it gives me because there's no other context to it. And then obviously down here we have this arch here. It's very interesting how it just kind of goes into the darkness. And I'm kind of looking at this from an artistic perspective, or a very abstract, or even possibly an esoteric perspective. But regardless, that's just what catches my eye. And then obviously we see here some remnants of Antiquitech or some type of energy harness. And we see that in coils, and people say, oh, that doesn't make any sense, it's just stone. Well, yeah, now it is. We have to look at this in the context that these things are very old and they've corroded and they've become weathered, and all that remains is what we see as an aesthetic or a decorative or even just an architectural design. We don't see the original purpose. These could have been wrapped in wires, these could have been wrapped in copper, these could have been silver plated, gold plated, palladium plated, something of that nature. Something to harness the electricity in the air, the aether energy. There could have been a bell up here at the top that would resonate sound throughout the area. I mean, we can't just look at it from the official story's perspective, otherwise that we're just wasting our time if we're going off of those narratives and context. We might as well just give up if we're going to go off of that. So with that said, I mean, come on, we have to kind of try to discern something here. So now we have a bell here, but I think that it would have been a possibility to even have a bell up here in the past. So that's the first image. And then the second image here is a little mysterious. It does show construction. Now, what I was told in the description of this image that I found was that this was a middle school, and that they were constructing a middle school, as in like a grade 6, grade 7, grade 8 public school. But the reason that I included it in this slideshow is because of this tower here. This giant tower here. This is why. Because I find this very interesting in the sense that it's all here by itself, and they're building a school by it, and there was no information about this. Like, this wasn't part of the description of the image, as in to say it could be a silo, it could be some primitive water tower, it could be really anything at all. And then we see this at the top here, as we've seen in other buildings, a kind of antenna, something along those lines. But supposedly the picture was taken, I don't know exactly, now I should have wrote it down, but I believe it was 1901, somewhere along those lines. This is 15th Street, this is 16th Street, this is Ohio Street, so you could look it up, see what it looks like now. But I thought it was alright. It's not the best image, but interesting enough. Alright, so next image. So this is the library. This is the library in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This photo was taken, I believe, sometime in the 60s, especially judging by the cars. And it's a good image. You know, it's a high-res, black and white film, probably shot on a 4x5. And for those who don't know, a 4x5 means that the negative is 4x5 inches. So that's a really good size negative. When you consider that motion picture films are shot with 35 millimeters, which is, you know, just a fraction of 4x5 inches. So anyways, that's why it's so detailed and sharp and everything. That's my guess, is that it was shot on a 4x5. So what we see here, we see the classic quote-unquote old world facade, Tartarian style facade, columns, the whole deal here, the eagles, the dome, pretty much hitting all the marks. And then we also have this kind of petrified ivy looking thing here, and then we see the varying stages of wear. We see the different patina. Here we have that classic shaded look, and then here, same thing. But they keep the stairs clean, and they keep all this clean, so it has that kind of contrast. But that's another phenomenon. I guess it's the aging of the stone, and this gets, you know, different lighting, something like that. And it's also kind of a decorative thing with the ivy. It gives it that old world kind of charm, even for the plebeians to enjoy. So in this image here is the inside of the library. And once again, we see all the classic things. We see the marble, we see the ornate crown molding and all that kind of stuff here. And then the intricate floor, you know, this kind of filigree kind of style. But the marble is really beautiful here. And I could only imagine what this would look like if it was in color, you know, around sunset or something like that. But it would be very dramatic looking. And then we see this beautiful symmetry here in the staircase. We see boom, boom, 45-degree lines down here, down here, down here. And I couldn't find anything else. I'm sure there's other stuff out there, but this is all I could find of the interior. So I thought that was interesting. And there's just a really beautiful photograph. Like I said, it's high format, and then also good resolution on the scan. And then here we have another mysterious tower, water tower and park with view of Milwaukee Bay, Milwaukee. But it's a really, you know, it's not horrible, but it's kind of a, you know, it's low resolution, I guess we could call it. So we can't quite see Milwaukee Bay, but I imagine that would be what this is out here. And then it has this kind of vignette around it, has this kind of bright light. Because there's two kinds of vignettes. There's the vignettes that have the dark, and then there's the ones that have the light. This is obviously the one with the light. And then there's some more writing down here, but so when you zoom in, it gets even worse. But what appears to be some type of writing down here by the border. Can't make that out. But nonetheless, just an interesting image in the sense that, once again, you have this kind of antiquitech looking little mini spires here, and then some more little spires, and you know, just this kind of mysterious, almost like a star fort kind of base. You know, almost like it could be the remnants of some type of star fort, especially because it's by the water. So that's interesting. That's worth looking into maybe in the future. And then here's another image of it, better image of it, more recent. I think this was also from the same period as the photographs that were taken out of the library, so I would say the 1960s probably. And so we can go back here for a second and just kind of see the stark difference. So this was probably in the early 1900s. You see? So that's interesting. Once again, the stonework, you know, just immaculate. And then, you know, these points here, we see all the triangle symbology and the arches within the triangle. And, it's just something that we just see over and over and over again. Very interesting stuff. Very beautiful. And then here we have, I believe this is the Pabst. You see here? Pabst building, as in Pabst Blue Ribbon. The fermented, the fermented drink, the fermented wheat juice that a lot of people like. It was a lot more popular about 18 years ago. But anyways, and then we have very old world looking clock up here, and just the amount of detail. And then we have the Antiquitech, the lightning receptors for the energy. That's how this building would have been powered, probably, is through the aether, through the lightning, the electrical storms and so forth. It would have had chains. It's missing the chains. And if you don't know what that's about, you can look into that. But a lot of these buildings used to have chains, and that would be a way for the energy to be conducted, and the chains would connect to all these, and then you would have that connected with the fireplaces that didn't burn wood. And but that's a whole other video. And if you don't know about that, you can look that up. You can look up old world fireplaces, things like that. And then what you see here is you see this beautiful building, and then you see the tacky advertisements again. For Edward the Barber, for real estate and loans, attorney at law, another lawyer, continental law, or what is that? Equitable life, so probably life insurance or something of that nature. And it's just amazing. And you got the cable car, you got some other buildings here, you got another old world building. Lucky enough to find these high-res scans. I mean, you can even see the little flecks of dust and hairs on these ones. You can see the little bit of damage in the negative. Very high-res, very good. And then you also see the inheritors wandering around in their silly clothes, the ridiculous, unpractical clothes that just didn't make any sense. And this isn't how a working, a woman or a working man. This is like white collar kind of stuff. And that's the thing you see with the inheritors, is they always got these like really cush white collar jobs where they would just sit up in these offices in these old world buildings, but they didn't know what to do with them exactly, so they just put like these really tacky advertisements and cheap signs everywhere. And that was kind of part of the reset too, was it was ushering in this age of just overt, really corny advertising. Makes no sense at all. I mean, it makes sense now as we've been programmed to be receptive to that form of advertising, but when you really think about it, it makes no sense just to put advertisements on beautiful buildings. And then you see some old stonework down here, the waterway, and you see some more people hanging out, stuff like that. But yeah, just the whole thing is just got kind of a weird vibe to it, but it's a good picture. Never seen it before. Glad I found it. And there's probably a few other things I could go over, but like I said, I'm gonna try to keep this one a little short. So we'll just go on to the next image. And then this building is the Basilica of, I believe, St Joseph. And I'm not quite sure. I think this is all from the same photographer. It seems to be the same vintage, the same film stock, and all that stuff. So I would place this around the 60s. Obviously, the official story is that it was constructed sometime in the 1800s, sometime in the 1880s or the 1890s, but we know that that's not true. We know that doesn't make any sense. So once again, really nice stonework, really nice columns. Sacred geometry here. More sacred geometry. And then I like this one a lot because it's like stacked. It's really condensed. We have like a stack here. There's just all these, it's just really piled on. And then here we have a deity here. Because you got to remember, in the Catholic denomination, it's almost like we deify these saints, which is fine, but you don't see that in other denominations so much. Obviously in Orthodox Christianity, Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, we see that deification. But so this would be, I believe, St. Joseph. If I made a mistake, I'll put that in the description. But I believe it's St. Joseph. I believe this is the Basilica of St. Joseph in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then in the next slide here, we have a close-up of that. And then we see the sacred geometry. We see these filigrees. And that one this one right here, it almost kind of looks like a double eagle head kind of thing. And then you kind of got like the hidden Mickey Mouse kind of thing going on here. And then more of that. You see all this kind of stuff. And it's just, it's just really mind-boggling that they would have been doing this, especially in a place like Milwaukee where it would have been really cold and snow and wind, possibly even a blizzard, depending on when it was supposedly built. But if we think about it in terms of, a long time ago, possibly the climate was a little bit more temporal, something like, more of a more southern kind of climate, or possibly there was a way to construct these things without being impeded by the weather. I have no idea, just throwing that out there in case anybody else has thought about that when we see buildings in strange places, it doesn't kind of vibe with the weather. Possibly the weather was different. We know that we go through grand solar minimums and grand solar maximums, and we go through different, I wouldn't call it, climate change as in the way that people think about it nowadays, but just things change over time. Things are different. So here's an interior shot of the basilica. And the reason I included this one is because it's a close-up, so you see a little bit more detail. And you just see this marble work here, all these intricate details here, very beautiful stuff, very old world. And you have to think about it within the way that the Midwest, the Milwaukee demographics were in the 1800s. Yeah, it would make sense to build a beautiful Catholic church, but who exactly was coming over here and building it in the old world style, the old country, the European fashion, in the cold? And was it commissioned by the archdiocese? Was the Vatican paying for this construction? Because that would make a little bit of sense if the Vatican was paying for the construction of these Catholic churches in the Midwest. And that's probably the official story, is that they were sending people out, skilled and crafted, tradesmen from Europe, and that's very possible and everything, but at the same time, it's a little far-fetched to be putting that amount of effort into something that might not have lasted if it wasn't built properly. So, and then also we see the weathering. If we go back a few. We see the weathering already. And, so this picture was taken in the 6th, but that's less than, official story is less than 100 years, and we're already seeing, just that kind of patina. Not so much on the inside, but regardless, still, very interesting. This altar here, presumably more marble, granite work here. And then this here is almost kind of like a replica or a scaled down version of the exterior, so that's interesting. And then this staircase up here to where the podium, or the pulpit, I guess you would call it. And then this one is just, I guess, kind of like a drawing or kind of like a painting kind of thing. And it's the last image of this short video, but I just included it because, I kind of like the vibe of it. You got the, you kind of got like the weird kind of holographic moon up here doing things. And these were kind of stacked. If you guys don't know how these kinds of images were made, they would do these in layers of different colors. And that's why you have this kind of thing going on. And you see some kind of, it's like a composite image. If you know what that is, it's like layered, and then they press it, and then they take the different pigment, different colors, and this is how they would make color photos in the early days too. So this could have actually been a photograph, and then they kind of colorized it. But you see these very square buildings here, this kind of orange, kind of rust-colored one, and then this gray one here, and then you got the tops here, and then more lightning rods, more Antiquitech, one back here. It's a nice image, and I just thought it would be kind of a nice image to close the video out. And you know, like I said, it's kind of a short one, but the Midwest seems to be worth investigating, and I thank you for your time. Once again, please comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Goodbye.